you guys have been a phenomenal audience, so quiet, holding in all that expertise and everything.
Oh boy.
But this is our breakout room where we'll be able to share out some of those ideas. My video's off because my internet is unstable, much like my mind, very unstable. But besides having me, I'm David Budai from Coachella Valley, the phenomenal.
And I'm Juanita. Okay, and I'm Juanita Chan. I'm from Rialto Unified School District, and so we're going to be your facilitators. And really, that is what we're here for. We're just here to facilitate a conversation. So we're not going to do a whole lot of talking. Hopefully, David and I will just zip it up a little bit, which isn't technically our forte, but we're going to work on it, right, David?
I will work on it. And we actually have another phenomenal person in here. Yami's in the room.
Woo!
She's going to be like a little fly on the wall, but she is incredible. So you guys have powerhouse.
And I see Jeffrey too. I feel like Jeffrey was a part of this conversation.
So feel free to unmute right now. We're going to take off your mutes. We want to hear what you guys have to say. And what we're going to talk about, or what we're going to speak about first, is what type of writing did you notice during this activity? The activity during the snails.
I saw that it was very detailed because all of the observations that we had seen had kind of a lot of evidence, a lot of very specific vocabulary words. So that really helped kind of enrich the writing to be kind of in more depth.
And I want to kind of talk about its relevancy for second grade in particular, because this is the second grade breakout group. And the question of whether it really, like, how do you think your students would respond to something like this as as second grade teachers?
Oh, heck yeah. They would love this. Bugs and stuff. Yeah. Creatures.
Right. I thought that same thing. And I heard Ashley when she was talking about her first grader just kind of wandering by, and we're like, ooh, snails. So through distance learning, there's two pieces, I think. One of them is during distance learning, and the other one is like in your actual classroom. What are your thoughts?
It was interesting to see like a kind of more concrete way of doing this through virtual learning, because we're virtual learning too. So it was interesting to see that happen kind of right in front of us, because I think science and those types of lessons feel kind of overwhelming through a screen.
Yeah, and Yami put a question in the chat, which was, what kind of writing was displayed today? Just kind of to refresh our minds.
Was there a focus? Were we trying to say, hey, look at this writing piece here. It's kind of good. What was that? Narrative? Okay. Thank you, Leslie. And?
Oh, opinion or
opinion. Argumentative. Yes. Excellent. Very good.
Have you seen that name it, verb it, finish it strategy before?
No, I haven't, and I really liked that. Definitely, I definitely wrote that down.
Oh, very nice. I don't know about you guys, but we have a lot of English language learners in our in our district, and sometimes one thing I really liked about the strategies that were kind of modeled today was, number one, it focused everybody on a common phenomena, so that way everybody, it like raised the floor, right? Everybody, regardless of their background experience, could understand and could interact in some way. The second piece, I think, has a lot to do with the ability to communicate those ideas. That name it, verb it, finish it strategy as a piece to allow the students to figure out how to just get the information out. Because they have it when you're asking them. I don't know, even my fourth grader, it's like, okay, so what did you see? And she has it, it's all mixed up in her mind. And it's trying to get it out in like a really organized kind of way. So I see some things in the chat, so I'm just going to bring that up. So in this moment, I think what we are mostly doing is we're mostly kind of doing a collective kind of review of the ideas, just to respond to Sierra's piece. She said that she noticed directly out of the second grade writing the beginning, middle, end, setting, narrative, and opinion, discussing nouns and predicates about the snails. And she remembered being that age and being fascinated by nature and collecting the snails, to the dismay of her mom and the counselor. Sierra, did you want to unmute and say some more about that?
Yeah, I'm just I feel so weird. Like, I'm like, when do I talk? Or I'm not quite sure what to say. So it's just I'm not a distance learner. It's not an easy format for me, of course. But I just see such great opportunities for questions. I mean, kids are so fascinated and don't even realize, oh, we're doing, work right now. This is writing, this is work, this is science. So it's just kind of fun. And you could even talk about the history of how he brought over the snails. I mean, there's just so many, in bringing math, this is full integration and full interest and engagement, and something they could do at home and try to mimic. And there's just a lot of flexibility and variety.
Yeah, for sure. Julie, did you want to add on, or? You're good. Leslie, there's two Leslies. Did you want to add on? I just want to make sure everybody gets a chance. This format is kind of strange, right? And you spend the whole presentation kind of muted. This is the opportunity to just unmute, and we really just want to hear from you. So,
I have had a tough time trying to figure out how to integrate science with the whole distance learning thing. So I, to be honest, haven't spent much time even like looking at my science curriculum because there's just no time. But I think with this, I always in the back of my mind knew that there was, I can integrate it into, another subject. But this kind of was really helpful in being able see how many pieces actually do really fit into, this, not only science, but it's reading, writing, and I still don't get how to integrate the math part. I don't know about that part, but but I feel a little bit better about integrating the literacy part into the science. So thank you. That was really helpful.
no, great. Did anybody want to add in a thought about how we might integrate that math talk or any of those data talk pieces into what the students are writing? Sierra, you have, yeah.
I mean, just they mentioned like measuring, that would be kind of the first thing, or even in second grade, kind of counting and thinking about like place value, depending on what science topic you're talking about. Just trying to find those numbers and thinking, what can I do with those numbers? Can I play with those numbers? Because there are a lot of numbers in science when we look for them.
Imagine talking about math and having a math specialist in the Zoom room. Shirley's with us and is phenomenal working at all. It's a little secret. I'm not going to tell you guys all this, but also I know that it's kind of overwhelming with all the information you gained today. We do have those upcoming office hours that are going to go ahead and be smaller, a little bit more intimate, a little bit more focused, and give you guys some of the questions. So if you felt a little overwhelmed today, look towards those office hours. You're going to have to sign up for them. I don't think there's a cost to them. Just sign up for them, and they'll go a little deeper in those subjects.
Yeah, I just wanted to share an additional thought that went along with the data science piece, and that is that when you're thinking about narrative, it is kind of difficult to think about how that math piece fits in. But when you're thinking about the opinion or the argumentative writing, remembering that the students are developing some kind of claim about the snails. So they made all these observations about the snails, and going back, it's a question of what kinds of claims can be made about snails if we think about the investigation that went on today. So I'm just going to let that question hang out there so that maybe you can respond. So what kinds of claims could be made from some of the experimentation pieces that you saw today?
Snails make good pets.
Okay, snails make good pets. Maybe, yeah, definitely. What other kind of claims could be made about something that we actually observed?
That they eat everything, that one of those things.
so that they eat everything. And could a student make a claim based on, if we were doing the example that, I can't remember what the lady at the end, what her name was, but I mean, could we make a claim about what kinds of food that snails prefer if we've collected some data along those lines?
Well, they didn't eat the hot dog, really.
Right, so, okay, so that's a piece that we, go ahead, Julie.
Smart snails. Hot dogs are full of,
Nitrates.
They did seem to tend to be toward the vegetables, but I think snails are omnivores.
I think it also
Yeah.
with like how long the snails were in that container, they probably end up eating all of it.
Yeah.
And it seemed to be like whatever they were closest to. They didn't pass the hot Cheeto to get to the lettuce or anything.
Yeah, and the length of time that we did our observation probably was, affected that quite a bit. But it's this piece where if we were going to add a data science component to our writing, we might make a claim about what kinds of foods snails like, right? Collect some evidence based on our little tray activity, and then have a conversation. So how many snails went to the hot Cheeto? How many snails went to the lettuce? How many snails ate a little bit of the hot dog? And from there, the writing part underneath, or the writing part that goes along with that, you can make make a statement about what it was that we physically saw, and then make a claim that's kind of like, if we're going to name it, according to our investigation or according to our test, we saw that 3 snails went to the carrot, right? And that's also a name it, verb it, finish it that kind of goes along with that claim. That isn't a really hard math ask, right? But it's still a way to bring that math in to allow students to think about, okay, so if 3 snails went to the carrot and no snails went to the hot dog, what does that mean? That's the science claim part, right?
Well, and you could make really nice comparisons. So you could say that 7 snails ate the lettuce, and I mean, like really bump it up a level. 7 snails ate the lettuce, but 11 snails like the flaming hot Cheetos. How many more snails liked the flaming hot Cheetos? So you're using like a form of subtraction, maybe, or kids might be counting on to get the answer. They're comparing 2 numbers, right?
Right.
And I loved what someone said about the distance. That's brilliant, because I can see doing so much number line math with snails crawling along the number line, finding the answer to problems, by using that directionality, crawling this way and going that way. That'd be so fun, right?
And definitely.
Snails on the number line doing their mathematics. I mean, that would be just crazy fun. And number lines are a measure of distance. So how cool would that be? And I tell you what, this is gonna ruin it. You're gonna think I'm cracked. But I gotta tell you, my dot cards tomorrow morning would have snails on them. I'm just telling you what, I'm talking about. They'd all be dot cards with snails. I don't care if I'm up till midnight. That's what I would be making. So,
Heather has a snake that eats fish.
There
Can
we
you
go.
imagine that? Oh, I would love to see videos of that, Heather, of a fish being consumed by the snake. Oh, whoa.
Heather, do you want to add into that? Do you want to unmute and add to that piece?
Well, it was used to have. They're really hard to find now. It was a ribbon snake, and I used to always get one every year, and they were so awesome. They would eat fish. And that was when I taught kindergarten. And it was just easier. The kids never seemed to mind that he ate fish. It didn't seem to bother him. So we would go to recess and there'd be just, some fish missing. So they would have to plug the unknown into that. How many fish did he eat?
Wow.
Yeah, and those math conversations, right? That's definitely bumping it up to that kind of algebraic thinking. How many fish did he eat from there? Sierra also added.
standards. It's the right level. That's
Right. Yeah. No.
right there.
Yeah, definitely.
Great.
Sierra also added to the chat the idea of the graph. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, you could graph the data, right, and compare it on a graph, or even use like your greater than, less than symbols. But a graph would be really cool to visually see. What did they like? How many like this one? How far did they travel? And just really play with that.
Yeah, and to Shirley's point, it's a way of bringing that. It's kind of, it feels very much like old school themes, right? Where we had this like science investigation, it was surrounded with snails. We're doing reading that goes along with snails. We've got snails on the dot cards. And I think for kids, that really like brings it all together. It's not like, oh, we just, now we got to shut that part of our brain off to do this over here. But instead, it's just carrying that theme over. Heidi, I'm not sure if we've heard from you or Jeffrey, so if you want to just jump in, what are your thoughts?
Well, I was thinking also, I work at the same school as Heather, and she also hatches eggs as well.
Chicken eggs?
Chicken eggs, yeah. So I was just thinking, same kind of thing, with all that. So I don't know, just thought I'd throw that out there. And then we also have bearded dragons, same kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And each one you could talk about like those, there's a lot of things to talk about. I'm trying to think about the NGSS standards that go along with those, like the physical characteristics and how the characteristics go along with their functions. So like structure and function pieces that go into that, or if it's at the end of the year and you're moving up to third grade, this idea that like the chicks kind of look like the parents, that piece comes up in second grade too. And there's lots of data talks that can go along with that arm of it too. And those same strategies of like name it, verb it, finish it, of having the students make observations, right? And setting up something that's a real kind of quick and simple set of observations that lead to students maybe looking at a diagram that gives some vocabulary, and so that they can then use their language to like explain what it was that they saw. Jeffrey, did you want to add something? And I think we also haven't heard from Leslie Townsend. So if you want to add anything, or anybody, if anybody else wants to add anything. Oh, Jeffrey says he's cutting in and out, so.
I just want to say one more thing. I was just thinking that we could even have the kids come up with their own experiments. And then figure out the ways to tie that into the math, because they can always come up with something, that I'm like, oh, really? That's awesome.
And the thing that I really liked about the snail one is that even in distance learning, when we're thinking like, what do the kids have? It's really easy to go outside and like find a snail. Or a roly-poly, or some kind of invertebrate outside. Now the parents might hate that, but the kids might find that really enjoyable. Heather says, I'm so getting snails. Oh, there's not many snails in the desert. I bet if you looked under some rocks over there that you could find some snails too.
It might also be fun, like if we are, sorry. Oh, we're closing soon. I was gonna say, it might be fun to go somewhere with your camera or phone if you have the availability that day, and then do like a field trip where they get to explore with you and walk somewhere.
Yeah, that's cool. The kids are so excited about going outside. Julie, did you want to add something else?
No, it's just hard to, she's right, it's hard to find snails. You got to look for some ivy or something like that.
Right.
Snails in the desert.
A kind of moist area.
We'll ask Santa Claus for snails for everyone.
There you go.
All right, David, do you want to finish us out?
Thank you for sharing. And
thank you. We have about 21 seconds. Go ahead, David.
I was going to say, don't forget, we'll be talking about those office hours. So if you feel like, hey, I want to learn a little bit more about this, it's coming, guys. It's here for you. You guys are a phenomenal group. Thank you very much. See you in the
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.